And Makivia, go ahead and ask any questions you have about this, um, because I know for a fact they'll ask probably one or two questions on the exam about the theory of HA, but troubleshooting they'll definitely ask questions about this. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and jump on in. All right. So one of the first things, right, is checking the status of HAs in the GUI, right? Um, if you went ahead and you properly set up the cluster, right, and it successfully formed, right, when you first log into the GUI, right, it's going to go ahead. You're going to be brought to the dashboard, right? It's going to show you all this little thing like your license info, your serial number, what have you. If you use the left navigation bar, right, you go all the way down the system and you click on HA, right, you'll be able to see the status of your cluster, right? It'll show you, of course, the role, the serial number, the host name, right, and the priority you set, and the uptime, right? So you'll be able to see all of this, right, on within that GUI. Okay, so that's a quick look. But if you want to get fancy with it, which of course some of you guys may have to, is because there might be certain codes, right, and certain things that you may need to go ahead and verify via the CLI versus what you can't see on the GUI, right? And a little bit more information, right? So if we're looking at this page, right, you guys put in the Diag sys HA system, right? A couple of things that you would see in the that you would only see in the CLI and not the GUI, right? Of course, we got the serial number, right? We have the priority, right? We have two different priorities. We have the serial number priority and we have the user priority, right? User priority meaning just the, what you configured has a user on the GUI, okay? Um, and as you guys can see, right, we statically set it to 200 into 100, right? But remember what I talked to you guys before. What we spoke about earlier this week is the lowest serial number will win, right? And so if we compare two of the FortiGates, right? Which one has the lowest serial number, right? I'm sorry, the highest. I apologize. Which one has the highest serial number, right? And that'll be the first one. Okay.
Primary, yep.
Right. And so if we go ahead and scroll down to kernel HA information, right? Again, more stuff that we're not going to see in the GUI, right? We actually have the IP address of the HA interface, 169.254.0.1. Remember, the primary will always get that .1. Okay. All right. So again, yeah, you can check a lot of these things again for troubleshooting purposes, right? If you want to go ahead and just check to say, hey, are we good? Is it up? Can I communicate with it or what have you? Okay. Now checking I know just from memory, there is a command, one of my favorite ones. Let's see where that's at. Oh, right here. Perfect. This command has saved me 10 times over, right? The Diag system HA, checksum in general. With the status of faulty fake devices going out there. I'm sure you guys heard about fake Cisco switches being sold by companies, and FortiGate's now on the rise. So and of course they don't program their software correctly. So being able to go ahead and checking the checksum and making sure that's all working, but that's not all, right? Checking the checksum of the secondary configurations, right? We'll go ahead and you guys will be able to look at you'll be able to confirm and see, all right, my secondaries, right, they all synchronized, right? Did a full synchronization with the primary, right? Based on the checksum that I have, right? I'm able to go ahead and see, oh, it has the same sequence of numbers because you guys can see, right? Global had the same checksum 7B, 05, 62, right? That needs to be the same. If my Kivia is troubleshooting this, she doesn't see that, we're not synced up. So all the peers, right? The big thing I want you guys to take out of this, and this helps with troubleshooting, all peers must have the same sequences of checksum numbers. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now, again, there's different type of you know, keywords you can go ahead and put in after checksum. You can go ahead and run the, diag system HA checksum cluster, right? Go ahead and check the checksums of all the cluster members within the Fortigate cluster, right? Next one, the diag system HA checksum show, right? It's going to show you the checksum of just the individual Fortigate that you're on, right? That you're running this command on. You could also go ahead and run the diag system HA checksum recalculate, right? Right. And what it'll do is, if you run that on any any of the members within the cluster, it'll go ahead and recalculate those HA checksums. Okay. Why would you need that? Connection was reestablished, but the configuration was changed ever since the connection was established. Boom, you just go ahead and recalculate it, right? You just do a manual recalculation, and then you're good to go. Okay, right? Um, and again, you'll see, and I want to break down, and sorry if I'm being particular, I want to break down what you guys are seeing in this screenshot running the Diag System HA checksum cluster command. I want to tell you guys what global, root, and all means, right? So if we're looking at global, right? What that checksum represents, right? It means the global configuration, right? Um, administrators, administrator profiles, the global logging settings, FortiGuard settings, anything that has to deal with the system. That's if we can match that up with different FortiGates within the cluster, that's all been copied, right? The root, right? That checksum is telling us, hey, it's for the root VDOM, right? If we have multiple VDOMs, right, we'll go ahead and see the checksums for all the VDOMs as well, including the root, right? But it's telling us the root VDOM was copied as well, that configuration, right? And last but not least, right, that keyword of all, right? All is it's going to show you the checksum of the global configuration plus the VDOMs, right? So we'll have the individual global one, the individual root, and the all is showing us the global and the root combined checksum. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to show you guys something that you probably should lock in, probably into your toolkit. This is my favorite command. So let's say you're troubleshooting a problem within your cluster, right? You guys are probably thinking, man, I can only connect to the primary, right? By using the IP address or what have you. You can actually go ahead and move to a secondary, FortiGate, right, from the CLI, right, to go ahead and troubleshoot things, right? Execute HA manage, right? And you're going to go ahead and put in, right, that ID, right? The ID of that FortiGate. Of course, you get that from running the previous command. You get that ID, right? You put that in, then you put the username. You'll be asked for the password. Boom. Right? Now you can put either the ID or you can put just the serial number, right? So you can get that information through me personally. I just grab the serial number. It's easier because I can just copy it from the GUI, right? But again, if you wanted to troubleshoot things and go actually on different FortiGate, I know personally for me, if I'm configuring the management interface, right? But I skipped the step and I went ahead and already put them in a cluster. I can just go ahead and go to each FortiGate and assign them an IP address. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Can you go back to the previous slide though and show where in that CLI output the ID was?
The ID number, it should be, and then may have.
Oh, is the primary ID equals 0?
No, no, no. That's just the serial number priority in the event of, electing a primary,
I'm talking
right? That
about where it says kernel HA information. It says primary ID equals 0. Is that the
Oh,
ID?
okay, that's what you're looking at. No, that's not it.
Uh,
Um, where is I
or should
think
I
this
just put the serial number in and just forget about the ID?
no, no, you can still worry about the ID, but again, I keep it simple. I just use the serial number because typically if I'm switching, I'm just on the GUI already. So
Okay.
serial number is pretty easy. You go ahead and just grab this, then you run it after, you're done. Makes sense? This is very helpful because you can literally like manage the entire cluster.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. You guys know about this command, right? If you want to go ahead and force a failover, execute HA failover, set, and of course the cluster ID. There is a command to get the ID. Wait a second. See, now it's going to bother me. It's going to bother me. Um, I need to get that. I need to find out what's the. Hold on, guys, because now it's going to bother me. Hold on. How do you get that ID number? Let's use some Google for. Okay. Okay. It's not that. Let's. Okay. All right. You know what? I'm not gonna take too much time. We'll go ahead and go over it tomorrow. Because I know for a fact if I get in the CLI, I'll be able to tell you guys. But yes, if you want to go ahead and execute a failover, right? Execute HA, failover set, and then the cluster ID or the group ID, right? Um, what'll happen is as soon as you go ahead and force it, um, it'll stay in the failover state regardless of any conditions, right? The only way to go ahead and remove the failover status is by manually turning it off, right? Um, and of course, keep in mind, this is for troubleshooting purposes only, right? Um, definitely be wary if you're going to go ahead and use it in prod, all right? Okay. And the command might be get system HA status, and it shows the ID, but again, we'll do it tomorrow in the lab. Um, you'll be able to go ahead and use this command to confirm, um, how the primary was selected. Okay. All right. So as you guys can see, we go ahead and put get system HA status, primary selected using, right, either the serial number or what have you, right? Or it'll just go ahead and lay it out for you. Oh, executed failover command, right? This is why it became the primary, right? It'll have that flag set. So this is very important, right? Because you'll be able to go back and take a look at the logs and see, okay, so if somebody did a manual failover, this wasn't a physical failure or a hardware failure. Okay, let's say you want to go ahead and you went ahead and fix maybe something layer one, or just want to go ahead reverse the failover status. Execute HA failover unset one, right? And what you're basically telling the device is, I don't want and where we got one from, just to give you guys some context. We did the execute HA failover set one, right? So we went ahead and set the failover status. That's set. So us doing unset one, it's bringing it back to its original state. Okay, right? And now when you do the, of course, if we're looking at the bottom, get HA status, still tells us how the primary was picked, and it's letting us know it went back to its original election process, right? right, went ahead and selected the primary based on the largest priority. Okay, make sense? Okay, one of the most complicated things in setting up HA, right? So if you want to be able to connect, right, to each device directly, gave you guys one simple way to do it. You can just go ahead and get on the primary and just switch with the ID, right? But you can go ahead and reserve an interface for HA management, okay? And so what happens, right? So that protocol that's used between the FortiGate's FGCP, right, the FortiGate clustering protocol, right? It supports reserved HA management interfaces in both NAT and transparent mode. Okay. Within that configuration within the GUI, right, or the CLI, right, you can configure up to 4 dedicated management interfaces, right? Right. The configuration of reserved HA management interface is not synchronized, as you guys learned, because because of course each that is one of the things that isn't copied from the primary configuration, right? That is a local configuration, okay, which you guys learned, right? Each device is going to have a different management IP, okay, right? How does that help and why would we want to do that? Well, if we have an SMP, SNMP server, or if we have an NMS, right, we want these devices to communicate on their own behalf. Okay, with the management interface, it's able to go ahead and traverse management traffic, NTP, SNP, and of course, pings or what have you. We're able to go ahead and identify that without having to log into the device, right? Of course, you can go ahead and configure this, config system interface, right? Edit port name, set the management IP. You can do all of that, right? But of course, again, like I told you guys, you have to first go into execute HA manage, put the device information before you can set the management IP. Okay, right? But ask yourself this: what if you don't have a free interface available, right? To go ahead and reserve a dedicated HA management interface, right? What FortiGate enabled us to do, right? We can go ahead and configure a management IP address from the CLI on any interface that is connected to a network and processing traffic, right? It doesn't require reserving an interface just for management access, right? It's just an alternative, right? It's just reserving a dedicated HA management interface. Okay, so there's many options that they give you. Okay, now this next topic is the bane to my existence. Okay, I'm sure you guys probably had issues as well, right? As with upgrading just one FortiGate, right? When upgrading a whole cluster, right? Each updating each FortiGate, it's always going to require a reboot, right? Here's where the tricky part is, right? We expect an upgrade, right? A firmware upgrade because of course, PCERT advisories come out, CVEs get dropped, right? We want this upgrade to be uninterrupted, right? And we hope everything works, right? And FortiGate being a legible vendor, of course, the devs configured uninterrupted upgrades, right? By default, right? That's actually a configuration enabled by default, right? Um, and of course, the cluster upgrades the secondaries FortiGates first, right? It's similar to if you have a switch that's in a stack, it's going to do the secondary first, right? The members in the stack first before it does the primary or the master, right? Once all the secondary FortiGate devices are running the new firmware, a new primary is elected and the firmware in the original primary device is upgraded. Okay. All right. Now, outside of the exam, I'm going to tell you guys with this is why this is the bane of my existence. You have to make sure the things that you've learned in section 2 and section 1, in section 3, yeah, all of that comes together, right? Along with layer 1, you have to make sure you have layer one properly connected, right? So if this FortiGate is connecting to your ISP, right? Maybe you only have one in your data center, you just have one port, right? Install a switch between the FortiGate, right, and the ISP, because what you don't want to happen is you initiate the upgrade on the primary. The primary is the only one that has the internet upgrade on an internet access. Um, you went ahead and upgraded the secondary. Primary goes down. Now the secondary is the new primary, and you don't have an internet connection to it. It dropped, right? Take down the whole network. Okay. So make sure layer one, and this is just professional advice. Um, please make sure all your layer one connections is properly secured. Okay. And you always want to make sure, of course, your individual devices are reaching out to FortiGuard for their upgrades. And of course, if you don't have access to FortiGuard, download the upgrade file, right? The new firmware file. But always, you want to go ahead and use the upgrade file from Fortinet. Okay, right? Now, keep this in mind, right? If the cluster's if its operation mode is active, right? If you start that upgrade, right, load balancing, disabled, right? So you definitely want to go ahead and perform this upgrade after hours, during non-production hours, okay? Definitely during a maintenance window, okay? And it's gonna, load balancing is gonna be turned off for the entire cluster. So nobody's passing traffic, okay? Um, what you can do, right, if you want to go ahead and make a change to the entire firmware upgrade process, right? You can disable uninterrupted upgrade, right, on the CLI. I don't advise it. You can do config system HA, and you can go ahead and what will happen is each FortiGate will now upgrade individually. Nothing will be shut off. Everything we just talked about, it will not apply. It's going to take less time, right? So it's going to be quick. But either way, traffic flow is effective, right? So I would say do the safer way, do what's programmed, right? And you should be good to go. Okay? Any questions?
None for me.
None for you? Okay. All right. With that being said, I got 2 questions for you and you're good to go. All right. Question 1. The heartbeat interface IP address 169.254.0.1 is assigned to which FortiGate in the HA cluster? Is it A, the FortiGate with the highest serial number, or is it B, the FortiGate with the highest priority?
Highest serial.
Highest serial number.
All right, you're correct. All right, question 2. Which statement about the firmware upgrade process on an HA cluster is true? Is it A, you need to upload the new firmware only to the primary FortiGate to upgrade an HA cluster, or is it B, the cluster members are not rebooted?
A.
You say you want me to say the question again?
Yeah.
Okay. Which statement about the firmware upgrade process on an HA cluster is true? Is it A, you need to upload the new firmware only to the primary FortiGate to upgrade an HA cluster, or is it B, the cluster members are not rebooted?
A.
Positive?
Positive. Yep.
All right, you're correct. All right, guys. Well, you guys are done. I know this week was a lot of theory, but tomorrow we will do a lab configuring HA. Crossing our fingers. I hope it works. If not, I'm going to make sure I have a backup ready for you guys. But yeah, we'll go over all HA tomorrow. I'll show you guys some tips and tricks, and you guys should be good to go.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thanks,
All
David.
right, guys. You have a great day.
You too.